Hello there, my name is Miss McVitie and I'm going to talk to you today about in your own words questions to help you with the higher RUAE paper. Our learning intentions. We will learn how to answer in your own word questions in the most effective manner. We will also learn how to achieve full marks in the in your own words questions. Success criteria. I can structure my answers effectively. I can understand what to look for and how to achieve full marks. It's really important that we establish what it is that you're being asked. In this type of question, you are literally being asked to show you understand what is written down in front of you by expressing it in a different way that means the same thing. For your template, I would rephrase the point in a different way that means the same thing. Don't overcomplicate it. How would you rephrase it if you were explaining it to a toddler? Use your own words. Before we do any practice questions, we're going to have a look at an example together and a model answer. Our context here then. Schoolgirls in Afghanistan have been told they are no longer allowed to sing in public. In a letter to school boards last week, which was leaked to the media, Kabul's education department said girls aged 12 and above would no longer be able to sing at public events, unless the events were attended solely by women. The letter also stipulated that girls couldn't be trained by a male music teacher. The question is, identify 2 changes implemented around girls singing in public. You should use your own words in your answer. So this question is worth 2 marks. I would always allow myself around about 1.5 minutes per mark, so this question should take you around 3 marks to answer. Pay attention to the marks on offer as they tell you how many points that you need to make. So in this case it's 2. If you'd like to try this at home, you should pause the video now because we're about to go over the model answer. Let's have a look at the model answer then. My first mark comes from females are forbidden from performing at social gatherings and can only do so if there's an all-female crowd. I've got my mark here because this is me showing my marker that I can understand what's been written down and I've rephrased it in a different way that means the same thing. Similarly, I was given my second mark for writing down men are forbidden from tutoring females because I've understood what's been written there, I've answered the question and I've used my own words to rephrase it. Again, make sure that you use bullet points to keep track of how many marks that you've made and pay attention to how much you need to write down by looking at the marks on offer. We're now going to try some different in your own words questions. If you'd like to try along at home, pause the video and give yourself time to be able to answer the questions before we look at the answers. Ideally, give yourself about 1.5 minutes per mark. So in reality this means if it's a 2-mark question, time yourself for about 3 minutes. So you can time yourself on your phone, on your computer or laptop, or get a parent to do it. Question 1. Schoolgirls in Afghanistan have been told they are no longer allowed to sing in public. Here we learn about the response of Afghan women. In protest, women from across the country, including many prominent Afghan leaders, recorded videos of themselves singing and posted these on social media using the hashtag #IamMySong. The question is, identify 2 responses from women across Afghanistan. You should use your own words in your answer. And a little tip here, bullet point your answers, and this will help you to keep track of how many points you are making. Okay, let's go over the answer together then. My first mark comes from writing down women filmed themselves performing. My second mark comes from writing down they shared this footage on a viral platform. So you can see that I've used bullet marks. It's a 2-mark question, so I want to make obvious my 2 separate points. It also helps me to keep track of how many points that I've made. Did you get full marks for this? If you did, fantastic. If not, can you see where the marks come from? Make a note of anything that you've learned from this answer. Question 2. Context. Schoolgirls in Afghanistan have been told they are no longer allowed to sing in public. Here we learn about what is happening to girls who have not stopped performing. Many report receiving threats are being asked by their own families to stop. Maram Abdallah, 18, a pianist who is about to graduate from Afghanistan's National Institute of Music, said she had to fight her family's conservative attitudes to be able to play music. And the question is, identify 2 ways in which girls are being urged to stop singing. You should use your own words in your answer. So a little tip here, if this was on paper, use a highlighter to underline the key words or phrases. Remember, if you're trying this at home, pause the video now because we're about to look at the answer. Let's have a look at the answer then. Your first mark comes from saying that they've been intimidated. And your second mark comes from saying their loved ones have urged them not to continue. So if you've got something similar, if you've rephrased it in a different way that means the same thing, using your own words, you'll get full marks. If you didn't, make a note of what you did get. Can you see where the marks have come from? And do you know what to do to move forward? Make a note of what you need to do. Question 3. Context. Creator of comedy show Taskmaster, Alex Horne, is interviewed by The Guardian. This should have been a simple interview with the creator of BAFTA-winning Taskmaster before the launch of the new series this week. But Taskmaster is anything but simple. To get a real taste of the show, I've been set 4 bizarre tasks to complete, straight from the Taskmaster's assistant himself, and he's going to judge them during the interview. I am excited and terrified. And the question is, identify 2 things that we learn about Taskmaster from these lines. You should use your own words in your answer. Now we can see that it's worth 2 marks. So again, we need 2 individual points here. Another tip is to read the lines at least twice, as you may notice something important that you've glossed over. Answer for question 3. It has 1 awards, which get you 1 mark, and it is complicated, would get your 2nd mark. So what did you get for this question? If you got full marks, fantastic, that's brilliant. If you didn't, can you see where the marks come from? Make a note of anything that you've learned from this answer. Question 4. Context. Creator of comedy show Taskmaster, Alex Horne, explains why he thinks the show is successful. Why have so many people jumped on the show during lockdown then? It's definitely escapism, and I think it helps that, unlike other panel shows, you want to see it to the end. Each show has a climax. I think you're doing well to turn off, unless you go, well, that's not my thing at all. One of the things we're really proud of is that every single task is different, even if there are similarities. You never know what's coming next. And the question is, identify 3 things that make the show different from others. You should use your own words in your answers. So again, that's 3 marks. So at this point, I would pause the video and would give yourself around 4.5 minutes to answer the question. Okay, here comes the answer. You would get your first mark for saying that it offers you a retreat from daily life. Your second mark would come from we want to know the outcome. And the third mark would come from no 2 activities are the same. So what did you get out of 3 for this one? Did you get full marks? 2 out of 3? 1 out of 3? The main point is you're able to identify, if you didn't get full marks, what can you do next time to make sure that you do? And if you did get full marks, what are you doing that you need to continue to do? Make a note of anything you've learned from this answer. Okay, so by this point we should really be finding our rhythm. Question 5. Context. Creator of comedy show Taskmaster, Alex Horne, explains why Greg Davies' job is so difficult. Indeed, while Horne is the mastermind behind the entire series, he's acutely aware of how crucial Davies is to the show. It's his little twinkle. His job is pretty difficult. He does have to say to people who have tried really hard, that was rubbish. And he doesn't often offend them. It's finding that dynamic of clearly being playful, but also being honest. And the question is, identify 2 things that make the job difficult for Greg Davies. Now at this point, I would recommend you pause the video and give yourselves around 3 minutes to answer the question. Answer to question 5 then. You would get the first mark for saying that he has to tell the truth. Then your second mark would come for identifying that he has to do it without hurting their feelings. So again, did you get full marks for this question? If you did, brilliant. And if not, can you see where the marks come from? Make a note of anything that you've learned from this answer. Question 6. Context. Journalist Jack Bernhardt from The Guardian reveals the different emotions he felt whilst completing Taskmaster. Over the course of the hour, I feel like I've had the full Taskmaster experience. Elation, impotent fury, white-hot embarrassment. In some ways, it's remarkable how emotionally draining it can be. I'm tempted to mention this to Horn, but he preempts this with another, more relevant observation. We've been talking quite earnestly for an hour. I'm very proud of the show, but I don't take it very seriously. I'm aware it's a very silly programme. And your question is, identify 3 emotions that Bernhardt experiences during the tasks. And this is a 3 marker. So again, this is going to take you a little bit longer. So pause the video and give yourself about 4.5 minutes to complete this. And remember to read over the passage at least one more time before you start answering the question. Answer to question 6. Your first mark would come from expressing the deep joy that he felt, then the powerless rage, and the intense humiliation. Now you'll notice here it's really important that you get the intensity of each emotion. So it's not just joy, it's deep joy. And it's not just rage, it's powerless rage. Okay. What did you get for this question? If you got full marks, fantastic. If not, make sure it's clear to you where the marks have come from. And make a note of anything that you've learned from this answer. Okay, final question, folks. We're doing really well. Context. Journalist Stuart Heritage looks at the new podcast from comedians Rob Beckett and Josh Widdicombe. Beckett has 2 young children with his wife, Louise Watts, while Widdicombe and his wife, Rose Hanson, have 1, with another in the way. Each week, the pair interview a celebrity. Past guests have included Michael Sheen, Philippa Perry and Paddy McGuinness, while sharing stories about their upended domestic lives. It's fast, fun, and at times genuinely touching. Here, they share their thoughts on their pandemic pastime. The question is, identify 3 reasons why Heritage likes the podcast so much. And again, this is another 3 marker. So read it at least once more and identify the 3 different reasons. And to give yourselves about 4.5 minutes to do this, and remember to pause the video before you go any further. The answer then. It's quick-paced, it's entertaining, and it's moving. Now if you got full marks for this question, that's really brilliant. If you didn't, make a note of where you went wrong. What do you need to do to improve? Make a note of anything you've learnt from this answer. Plenary. I can now structure my answers in an effective way, which helps me to achieve maximum results. I can highlight key words and phrases, which helps to identify the words that I need to rephrase. I can use bullet points, which will help me to keep track of how many points I have made. I can keep my answers concise and make my point as quickly as I can. Well done! You've now completed the different in your own words questions, and you now understand the best way to structure your answers and how to gain full marks. Fantastic! Next, look at articles from broadsheet newspapers. These can be accessed online or from your local newsagents. Make a note, using your own words, of the key ideas in each paragraph. This will get you used to using your own words and coming up with alternative language. You should also make a note of words you are not familiar with. Look them up and find out what they mean. It's surprising how much you'll encounter them going forward. Thank you, Miss McVitie.